The bride's own aunt ripped the white veil from her head. The fabric tore as it flew through the air and landed in the red dirt. "You think you deserve white?" Aunt Grace screamed at her. "Marry this filthy beggar or sleep with the dogs tonight." Chioma stood frozen in the village square. 300 people watched her. 30 phones were recording everything. Children were laughing and throwing sand at her feet. Hello family, welcome back. Please take a moment to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. It truly means a lot to us. Don't forget to share it with your friends and loved ones and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new story. So sit back and relax as we dive into the story. She was only 19 years old. 3 years ago, her parents had died in a terrible bus accident. Her father had owned a 15-acre cocoa farm worth millions of naira. Her mother had left behind beautiful gold jewelry and one special silver bracelet. But Uncle Charles had taken everything. Within 3 months of the funeral, the farm became his. The gold disappeared into Aunt Grace's locked drawer. Chioma kept only the silver bracelet, hidden under her sleeping mat. For 3 years, she became their servant. She woke up at 5 every morning to fetch water. She cooked for 7 people. She scrubbed floors while her cousins went to school. She had saved 68,000 naira from selling her mother's clothes at the market. She dreamed of finishing school and becoming a nurse. But dreams needed permission and Chioma had none. Then Uncle Charles started gambling. He borrowed 850,000 naira from Chief Moses, the village moneylender. He bought motorcycle taxis with the money, then sold them and gambled everything away. The debt remained, growing bigger every week. Chief Moses came on a Tuesday with his ledger. He wanted his money back. Uncle Charles had nothing to give him. That evening, Aunt Grace had an answer. There was a man named Emeka who was 38 years old and always drunk. His first wife had run away after he beat her. His second wife stayed only because she had nowhere else to go. Emeka wanted a third wife. Someone young. Someone broken. Someone who would obey him without question. The bride price was 200,000 naira. If Chioma married him, the debt would be erased. Chioma learned about this over cold yam porridge at dinner. "Emeka's family comes Thursday," Uncle Charles said. "You will accept." Her spoon fell from her hand. "Uncle, please," she begged. "I have exams in 3 months." The slap hit her face so hard her head turned sideways. Her cheek burned with pain. "Your father's land is mine," Uncle Charles hissed at her. "You are nothing. Either leave with nothing or marry Emeka." Aunt Grace stirred her pot without looking up. "Ungrateful child," she muttered. "We took you in. This is how you repay us." Chioma touched her burning face. She said nothing because there was nothing to say. But what happened on her wedding day would change everything. Would Chioma accept her fate, or would she run? March 17th arrived like a curse wrapped in harmattan dust. The wedding was set for noon in the family compound under a rented canopy. 300 guests had been invited for free jollof rice and gossip. Everyone wanted to see the orphan girl married off to a drunk. Emeka arrived at 11 o'clock, already smelling of alcohol. His hands were already reaching for Chioma before the ceremony even started. Chioma ran. She ran past the canopy, past the musicians, past the women frying plantains in big pots. She ran until she saw St. Anthony's Church ahead. Behind the church was a small courtyard with red dirt and stone walls. She collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Her orange and gold wrapper clung to her body, soaked with sweat. The white veil was crumpled in her fist. Her face paint mixed with tears. "Sister, why are you crying on your wedding day?" A beggar stood nearby. He wore torn brown clothes. His feet were bare and wrapped in dirty cloth. Mud covered his face. But his eyes were sharp and kind in a way that did not match his rags. "This should be a day of joy," he said softly. Chioma laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "Joy? I am being sold to a drunk man to pay my uncle's debt. There is no joy here." The beggar sat down beside her. He moved with a strange kind of grace that seemed out of place. He pulled out a tin cup and poured clean water into it. He offered it to her. "I know what it means to have no choice," he said quietly. "But even prisoners can choose how they respond. Here, clean water is the first dignity." Chioma drank. She was surprised that the cup was spotless and the water was cool and fresh. She studied him carefully. His posture was too straight for a beggar. His accent kept changing between village speech and educated English. On his wrist, barely visible under the mud, was a faded blue thread. "Who are you?" she asked. He smiled sadly. "Someone who believes you deserve better than this." Then Aunt Grace's voice shattered everything. "Chioma." Aunt Grace stormed into the courtyard with Chioma's cousins following behind. They were all recording with their phones. Aunt Grace grabbed Chioma's hair and yanked her upright. Chioma screamed in pain. The beggar stood up but did not interfere. You dare run and hide with this? Aunt Grace shrieked, pointing at the beggar. You want a beggar instead of Emeka? Fine. She dragged Chioma through the streets by her hair. People stopped and stared. Children laughed and pointed. The beggar followed them in silence. At the canopy, 300 guests pressed close. 30 phones were held high in the air. Everyone was waiting for the show. Aunt Grace ripped the veil from Chioma's head and threw it in the dirt. Marry the beggar then, she screamed. Let him have you. You can eat from dustbins together. The crowd roared with laughter. Phones captured everything. Emeka stood there swaying on his feet. I don't want her anymore, Emeka spat. She is spoiled. She is cursed. Uncle Charles stepped forward and addressed the crowd. His voice was loud and cruel. Chioma, you have two choices, he announced. Marry this beggar right now or leave forever. Your father's land stays mine. You get nothing. The beggar stepped forward calmly. The crowd went quiet. I will marry her, he said in a steady voice, if she consents freely. I offer no bride price, only my word to honor her. A heavy silence fell over the square. What would Chioma choose? A drunk who would beat her or a stranger who offered dignity? Aunt Grace laughed a high, cruel laugh. Uncle Charles smirked. Emeka spat on the ground in disgust. The beggar turned to face Chioma. Their eyes met. In his gaze she saw something she had not seen in 3 years. Respect. Not pity. Not lust. Just clean, steady respect. She had to choose now. Marry a drunk man who would beat her, or marry a stranger who had offered her dignity and clean water. I consent, Chioma whispered. The crowd exploded with noise. Some people gasped. Others laughed even harder. Children screamed with excitement. There was no proper ceremony. No cola, not blessing. No libation por. No prayer said. Uncle Charles scribbled 0 naira bride price on a piece of paper. It was a mock wedding. An orphan's shame. Guests threw sand at them instead of rice. Someone played funeral music as a joke. People recorded everything and uploaded it to WhatsApp before Chioma and the beggar even left the square. The beggar took Chioma's hand. His grip was warm and firm. The blue thread on his wrist caught the sunlight for a moment, flashing almost like gold. They walked through the jeers and laughter. Past Aunt Grace's satisfied smile. Past Emeka's curses. Past 300 phones capturing their shame. Chioma did not look back. She held the beggar's hand and stepped into her new life. She did not know that in 7 days, every single person there would kneel before her. The beggar led her through darkness to the edge of the village. A small mud hut stood near the forest, far from everyone's judgment. Inside there was one kerosene lamp, a swept floor, a thin mattress with a white sheet, a wooden stool and a jerry can of water. There was also a bar of soap. Chioma noticed immediately. Beggars did not live in clean spaces like this. You are safe here, the beggar said quietly. I will sleep outside on the veranda. You owe me nothing. Not your body. Not service. Not even gratitude. You are my wife in name only until you decide otherwise. She stared at him, exhausted and suspicious. Why did you do this? What do you want from me? He moved toward the door. I want cruelty to lose. That is all. Sleep now. He left her alone. She stood in the lamplight, clutching her mother's silver bracelet. Then she collapsed onto the mattress and cried until no tears would come. Outside, the beggar sat on the veranda staring at the stars. He pulled out a phone. Not a cheap phone but an expensive one with a cracked screen. He typed a message in English, Day 93. I found her. The real test starts now. He stared at the message for a long moment. Then he deleted it before sending. He wrapped the phone in cloth and hid it under the veranda boards. Day 1 arrived with silence. Chioma woke up and the beggar was gone. She found bread, akara and bottled water on the stool. Not well water but bottled water from a store. There was a note in neat handwriting. Eat. I will return by evening. The handwriting was too clean, too educated for a beggar. When he returned at 7 that evening, Chioma pretended to sleep. She watched through half-closed eyes as he washed at the jerry can. His hands afterward were clean. His nails were trimmed. His skin was soft. These were not a laborer's hands. He changed from his rags into a faded but clean shirt. Then he changed back into rags before lying down outside on the veranda. Who was this man she had married? On day 2, Chioma decided to follow him. She waited until he left the hut in the morning, then stayed far behind as he walked. She lost him near the motor park where buses and taxis fought for passengers. The noise and dust made it hard to see clearly. Then she spotted him again near a black Mercedes parked under a tree. A well-dressed man in an expensive suit handed him a brown envelope. They shook hands. Not like a beggar receiving charity from a rich man. They shook hands like equals, like business partners. The beggar glanced around carefully, then walked into a public toilet nearby. 20 minutes later he came out wearing clean Agbada clothes. He walked 3 blocks looking like a businessman. Then he returned to the toilet and came out in his beggar rags again. Chioma's heart pounded as she ran back to the hut. Who was he? What was he hiding? On day 3 the villagers found them. Children came and threw stones at the hut, shouting, "Beggar and his wife." Chioma's cousins came before dawn and smeared feces on the door. The beggar cleaned it without saying a word. His face showed nothing but his jaw tightened with anger. That night, Chioma could not stay silent anymore. "You are not a real beggar," she said. He paused, holding a cup of water in his hand. "What makes you think that? Your hands? Your soap? The way you stand and speak? Who are you really?" He set the cup down carefully. "On day 7 you will know everything. I promise. Can you trust me until then?" "I don't even know you," Chioma said. "Then know this." He looked directly at her with serious eyes. "I chose you. Not your uncle's land. Not your youth. I chose your dignity when you had none left. That is real." He lifted his wrist and showed her the blue thread. "This is my promise. 7 days." Chioma wanted to argue and demand answers immediately. But exhaustion won. She nodded once, then turned away. On the morning of day 4, an elderly woman appeared at the hut. She carried palm oil and plantains in a basket. Her head was wrapped in blue cloth and her eyes were kind. She hummed an Igbo gospel song as she walked. "My child," she said, sitting on the veranda without waiting for an invitation. "That boy has a heart cleaner than his clothes. I have been watching him for 3 months. Chioma blinked in surprise. 3 months? He has been here for 3 months. Yes, Mama Esther said with a gentle smile. Living like the poor to understand them. It is some kind of test. I do not know more than that. But I know God hides blessings in dirty packages. Wait 7 days, my daughter. Everyone thinks I am cursed, Chioma whispered. Mama Esther touched her hand warmly. Everyone thought Joseph was cursed too. Then he fed all of Egypt. Have patience, my child. She left the food and walked away, still humming her song. Chioma felt hope flicker inside her chest. It was small and fragile, but it was real. But the attacks got worse. Aunt Grace posted on the village WhatsApp group. Chioma is pregnant with beggar twins. She is eating from garbage bins. This is what pride brings. The message spread to 12 other groups within 1 hour. Uncle Charles added his own message. My niece has disgraced our family name. No one should help her. She made her choice. Church women whispered during Sunday service, pointing at Chioma when she entered late. The priest said nothing to defend her. Emeka's family demanded a public apology. She owes our son compensation for emotional damages, they posted online. Children created a rhyme and chanted it whenever Chioma appeared. Chioma the beggar's wife, married to a man with no life. One woman spat at Chioma's feet in the market. Another woman, accidentally, knocked her basket of tomatoes into the mud. Could Chioma survive 3 more days of this torture? On the evening of day 4, Chioma sat on the hut floor, shaking with pain and exhaustion. I cannot do this anymore, she said. I should leave. Go to Lagos alone. Start over. The beggar knelt beside her. For the first time he touched her beyond a handshake. His hands rested on her shoulders, firm but gentle. 4 more days, he said quietly. I know it hurts. But 4 more days and everyone who laughed will kneel. Not to me but to the truth. Can you hold on? She looked into his eyes and saw absolute certainty. Not arrogance. Not false hope. Real certainty. 4 days, she whispered. Chioma stopped waiting for rescue. She started building her own life instead. On day 5, she planted a small vegetable garden outside the hut. Tomatoes, pepper, and okra. The beggar watched, clearly impressed. She repaired the roof thatch, climbing up despite her fear of heights. She accepted a neighbor's offer to teach their children mathematics for 500 naira per week. Each morning she prayed. Not loudly or for show. Just quiet Igbo prayers at dawn, kneeling on the mat with her hands folded around her mother's bracelet. The beggar never interrupted. He just watched from the veranda with something like reverence in his eyes. That evening, Chioma tried to cook akara but burned half the batch. The beggar tried one, made a terrible face, and they both laughed. It was the first real laughter in the hut. The sound felt strange and fragile but good. That night, without thinking, she tied a blue cloth around her waist. She realized later it matched his blue thread. Neither of them mentioned it. Something was shifting between them. She still did not trust him fully. She still did not understand who he was. But she felt less alone. Late that afternoon, screaming came from Mama Esther's compound. Chioma and the beggar both ran toward the sound. They found Mama Esther cradling her grandson. The boy was 4 years old, convulsing, his skin burning with fever. It was severe malaria. The clinic will not treat him without 45,000 naira up front, Mama Esther sobbed. I have nothing. I already sold my wrapper. He is dying. Chioma did not hesitate for even 1 second. She ran back to the hut and dug her tin box from under the mat. 68,000 naira. Everything she had. Every dream she had saved for. She pressed it into Mama Esther's trembling hands. Go now. Hurry. The beggar stared at her in shock. Chioma, that is all you have in the world. What good is money if children die? She looked at him fiercely. Let us go. They rushed the child to the clinic. The doctors stabilized him with an 4 drip and medication. Chioma paid 50,000 naira and kept only 18,000 for food. Outside under the harsh fluorescent lights, the beggar stood silent. Then his shoulders began to shake. He was crying. You just gave everything, he whispered. For a child not even yours. Mama Esther was kind when no one else was, Chioma said, her voice steady. This is what my mother's bracelet means. Who brings cola brings life. We must give life when we can. He took her hand with real affection for the first time. His grip was warm and trembling. You are the richest person I have ever met. For a moment under those harsh clinic lights, something passed between them. Not romance. Something deeper. Recognition of each other's true character. That night, Chioma pretended to sleep. She heard the beggar speaking Igbo on his phone outside. Papa, it is time. Day 7 is Saturday. Yes, she is extraordinary. I was arrogant and empty. She is humble and full. Bring everything. The village needs to see. What would happen on day 7? The beggar hung up the phone. He noticed Chioma watching him through the doorway. Their eyes met across the darkness. He smiled sadly. Pack a small bag, he said. Tomorrow morning we leave for Lagos. We return Saturday. Her heart stopped. Lagos? Why? To prepare for day 7. And because I need to show you who I really am before everyone else knows. At 11 that night, a black SUV pulled silently to the hut. The windows were tinted dark. No headlights were on. The beggar emerged from the shadows, still wearing his rags. He opened the passenger door. A young driver stepped out wearing a pressed shirt and slacks. The driver bowed slightly to the beggar. Not mockingly. Respectfully. Chioma froze. Chidi, what is this? The name startled her. She had never asked his name. He had never offered it. But somehow it felt right now. Trust me one more night, he said. His voice had changed. No longer rough village speech, but smooth and educated. Then everything becomes clear. Only Mama Esther watched from her window, smiling like she knew a beautiful secret. The 4-hour drive to Lagos passed mostly in silence. Chioma slept against Chidi's shoulder, too exhausted for fear. He stayed awake the whole time, watching her face in the passing headlights, like he was trying to memorize her. Dawn broke over Lagos. Skyscrapers rose into the pink sky. Traffic and chaos and wealth collided on every street. The SUV entered Ikoyi, the luxury neighborhood where governors and oil barons lived. Armed security stood at the gate. A long driveway was lined with palm trees. Then the mansion appeared. 3 stories tall. White marble pillars. A fountain in the courtyard. A pool gleaming in the early sun. 3 expensive cars parked in the driveway. A Range Rover, a Mercedes G-Wagon, and a Lexus. Chioma's door opened. She could not move. Chidi, her voice broke. Whose house is this? Mine, he said quietly. Well, my father's, but soon mine. Come inside. She stepped out like she was walking through a dream or a nightmare. House staff in uniforms lined the entrance. They all bowed to Chidi. Welcome home, sir, they said in unison. Inside there were marble floors, chandeliers, and beautiful art on the walls. Everything gleamed with wealth. Chioma backed toward the door. You lied to me. 6 days of lies. I didn't, he started. You pretended to be nothing while I gave everything. She was shaking with fury and terror. That is exactly why I did not tell you. His voice rose, desperate. If I had revealed myself that first night, you would have been grateful and obedient. I needed to see who you really were. Not a rescued orphan. Not a grateful girl. You had no right. I had every right. He pulled off the torn agbada. Underneath was clean traditional attire, perfectly tailored. My name is Chidi Okafor. My father is Chief Okafor, owner of Okafor Luxury Transports. 16 trucks. Exports across West Africa. 4 branches in Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, and Accra. We are worth 780 million naira. He held up his wrist. The blue thread she could now see was woven with gold strands. This is my company founder's symbol. I have worn it every day for 100 days. Chioma's legs gave out. She sat hard on the marble floor. Chidi sat across from her, not touching, giving her space to breathe. 6 months ago I was a spoiled fool, he began. I crashed my father's Range Rover while drunk. I disrespected our drivers, men who worked 16-hour shifts so I could party in clubs. I wasted 2 million naira in 3 months on nothing. He paused, shame crossing his face. My father said, "You will live as the poor live for 100 days, or I will disown you and give the company to charity. Learn what suffering means or lose everything." Chioma stared at the floor. She said nothing. I have been in that village for 93 days, Chidi continued. Living in that hut. Eating scraps. Being ignored, mocked, invisible. Learning. When I met you behind the church, when your aunt forced that marriage, I had 7 days left. I could have refused. Could have revealed myself and rescued you like a hero to look good. Then why did you not? Her voice was ice cold. Because you were not asking to be saved. He leaned forward. You were looking for a way to save yourself. And I saw something in you I had never seen in anyone. Dignity without status. Kindness without reward. Strength without violence. So I was your test, she said bitterly. Your character study. No. He met her blazing eyes. The test was to live as a beggar for 100 days. That was set before I met you. But you became something else. You became the reason I wanted to pass. She laughed bitterly, but tears streamed down her face. 2 nights ago, he said softly, I watched through the clinic window while you gave your last 50,000 naira to save Mama Esther's grandson. My father's accountant photographed the receipt. You did not know anyone was watching. You did it because that is who you are. He pulled a photo from his pocket. Chioma at the clinic counter, handing cash to the nurse, her face peaceful and resolved. This is the woman I want beside me, Chidi said, his voice cracking. Not because you need me but because you make me better. You have taught me more about wealth in 6 days than my father taught me in 28 years. Real wealth is this. He gestured at the photo. Giving when you have nothing left. Silence stretched between them like a bridge being built. What happens tomorrow? Chioma asked finally. Day 7. Tomorrow my 100 days end. My father arrives with lawyers and witnesses. Your uncle has called an emergency village meeting to humiliate you publicly. He does not know we left. Chidi's eyes blazed with purpose. We are going back in a private jet. Landing in that village square at 10 in the morning. And we are going to show them that the worthless orphan and the filthy beggar are worth more than all of them combined. And if I say no? She stood slowly. If I walk away right now? Chidi opened his wallet. He pulled out cash, 500,000 naira in fresh bills. He placed it on the floor between them. Then this is yours anyway. For your nursing school. You owe me nothing. The marriage certificate is legal but not consummated. Annulment is simple. You are free. I forced nothing. She stared at the money. At him. At the mansion around them. I married you when everyone was laughing, she said slowly. When you had torn rags and muddy feet. I did not marry your money. She picked up the cash. His face fell with disappointment. Then she handed it back to him. So if we are doing this, if we are going back to face them, I am not going as your rescued orphan. I am going as your equal. Understood? His eyes widened with joy and disbelief. Understood. My equal. My queen. For the first time he smiled without sadness behind it. She almost smiled back. Saturday morning came with the sound of helicopter blades cutting through the Harmattan sky. Day 7 had arrived. And the village of Enugu was about to witness something they would never forget. The beggar was a prince. The orphan was a queen. And the truth was coming home. Saturday morning, Day 7. The village square filled with 400 people waiting to shame Chioma publicly. Uncle Charles displayed a fake debt poster, 1.4 million naira owed. At 10 o'clock, A helicopter descended from the sky. The crowd froze in shock. Ikena stepped out in royal blue agbada with gold embroidery and coral beads. Chioma followed in matching blue lace, gold bracelets shining, her mother's silver bracelet on top. Behind them came Chief Okafor with his staff of authority, and a lawyer carrying a briefcase. "I am Ikena Okafor," he announced through a speaker. "7 days ago you laughed at our marriage. Today we return with truth." Chief Okafor explained that his son had lived as a beggar for 100 days as a humility test, and chose Chioma because she gave everything when she had nothing. Barrister Okonkwo opened his briefcase and pulled out documents. Document 1. The original will leaving everything to Chioma, not Uncle Charles. Document 2. Bank statements proving Charles stole 2.3 million naira. Document 3. School records proving he fabricated the 1.4 million naira debt. Chioma owes nothing. The crowd erupted in shock. Uncle Charles turned pale. "You will return the farm, pay 500,000 naira restitution, and face prosecution," Chief Okafor declared. Police arrived and escorted Uncle Charles away. Aunt Grace collapsed, begging for mercy. Chioma stood tall. "Uncle, I forgive you because I refuse to carry your cruelty. But forgiveness does not mean I forget, and we are not family." She removed her mother's silver bracelet and gave it to Mama Esther. "This is worth 180,000 naira. You saw my worth when I was nothing. That is real wealth." The crowd clapped and wept. The helicopter lifted off with Chioma rising above those who had mocked her. 2 weeks later, Uncle Charles was sentenced to 18 months community service. Chief Okafor donated 5 million naira to create the Chioma Hope Scholarship Fund for orphan girls. 24 girls enrolled immediately. Chioma enrolled in nursing school while working at a free clinic in Lagos. Ikena ran the family business but added profit sharing for all drivers, remembering his beggar days. Mama Esther moved into their guest cottage with her healthy grandson. 2 years passed. At 21, Chioma was a registered nurse running mobile clinics across Enugu. The scholarship fund had grown to 86 girls, with 12 graduating secondary school and 8 in universities. On a Sunday morning, 6 months pregnant, Chioma and Ikena returned to St. Anthony's Church for the dedication of a new orphan care center. They walked barefoot to remember their journey. Standing in the courtyard where they first met, Chioma said softly, "I thought I was marrying a beggar to escape shame. Instead, I married a king disguised as one and became a queen by choosing grace over bitterness." They walked through the village greeting people, showing that power served rather than separated. Young scholarship girls followed them singing. One girl named Ngozi, saved from forced marriage, was now top of her class and dreaming of becoming a doctor. As their helicopter lifted off at sunset, Chioma looked down at the transformed village. The beggar had been a king all along. The orphan had become a queen. And their story proved that dignity cannot be stolen, only surrendered, and that sometimes the greatest blessings come wrapped in the dirtiest packages. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us keep bringing you more stories. Turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next.